Every winter, the warm waters of the South Pacific are filled with the magical songs of humpback whales. They also hold another very special surprise. A newborn humpback, as white as ivory and only 1 day old. Scientists have named him Petit Point, the little one, and he is at the beginning of a great adventure. This story shows what his future may hold. It begins in a world of sound, created by older, larger males. It's possible that humpbacks have been singing their extraordinary, complex songs for millions of years. This is one thing every newborn humpback is aware of. It is not alone. Petit Point was born in the crystal clear waters of French Polynesia. Every year in July, humpbacks return to the tiny island of Rurutu to wait out the winter, to mate and to give birth. This is a great gathering of whales from the South Pacific and Southern Oceans. After many weeks of traveling from her feeding grounds in Antarctica, 4,000 miles away, and then giving birth, Petit Point's mother is ready to rest. Her name is Virgule. She carried her baby an entire year before he was born. Here, she's found a calm, safe spot. While she sleeps, her baby can play. Now, several weeks older, Petit Point has grown into his humpback colors and is eager to explore his underwater nursery. The white sand is the perfect stage for a little whale's ballet. Here he can begin to discover the world around him, including his own shadow on the sand. Mother and calf will stay together for 1 year, and then this little whale will set out on his own. As mammals, humpback whales need to breathe air, and after 30 minutes resting on the seabed, Virgule is ready to surface. Next to his mother, Petit Point is still tiny, but already he's 15 feet long and weighs 2,000 kilos. He needs to grow fast. In November, in 4 months' time, Petit Point will embark on a great voyage to accompany his mother to the Antarctic feeding grounds. There is another world to discover, at the surface, where water meets air. Petit Point is still learning how to maneuver with his huge flippers, which seem more like giant wings. For now, they're good for play, but they'll become crucial when he grows up and chases fish. He lives in a 3-dimensional world. Like all babies, Petit Point tires himself out after so much playing. It's time to return to Mother. He needs to sleep, but he has a problem. His young body is so buoyant, it'll float to the surface when he rests. Snuggling under his mother is the perfect solution. She can keep her body stationary in mid-water. Adult humpback whales have extraordinary buoyancy control. This huge animal can remain completely still in the water. The best location to rest is on or near the seabed. The sun is too hot at the surface. Virgule has good reason to be so inactive. There's little food for humpbacks in the tropics. By conserving energy, she can extend her stay in this nursery, allowing her calf time to grow and develop before his long southward migration. At this early stage, Virgule is the focus of Petit Point's attention. Their bond is strong. From her, Petit Point will learn the essential skills of being a humpback. Petty Point will also learn from other humpbacks, adult males, who will pass on something very special to him, their song. When he matures, Petty Point will become a great singer, like all male humpbacks. Their songs are the longest and most complex of any animal. Humpbacks sing day and night. The singer is often motionless, head down, about 50 feet below the surface. It starts with a note. A series of notes becomes a phrase. The phrase is repeated as a theme. Several themes together become a song. A song can last 30 minutes, and when it's over, the whale returns to the beginning and starts all over again. The male humpback may sing for hours or even days. He has a phenomenal memory for sound. The song travels far underwater, especially the deeper, low-frequency sounds that can be heard many miles away. These are some of the loudest sounds made by any animal. It's still a mystery why the humpback sings. Possibly to attract females who are here to breed, or as a display for competing males. One thing is certain, the whales are communicating with each other. The whales have another method of communicating, lobtailing. Unlike singing, they do this all year round. Anytime, any place. That's not the only way they make a splash. They also use their flippers. When ancient mariners first saw humpbacks frolic like this, they were so impressed they gave them a special name, the merry whale. No other species of whale is as active as this. The sound from all this slapping will travel far, communicating the whale's position to others. However, this is also a good way to shed dead skin as well as bothersome parasites. Pettipoint's first few months are not just about play. He has to feed too. And this he does frequently. He's growing fast, putting on 60 kilos a day. His mother's milk has more fat and protein than any land mammal and is very concentrated. It's as thick as heavy cream. Pettipoint can curl his tongue into a funnel to ensure that none of the rich milk escapes into the sea. He doesn't need to suck. His mother pumps the milk into his mouth. He can even fill up while traveling. Eventually, he has to breathe. His mouth is so full, the milk is escaping. The little whale is full and satisfied. When Pettipoint travels to the feeding grounds, he will learn a new special way of feeding, unique to humpback whales: bubble fishing. The bubbles on the water surface were released by this whale to surround and confuse a shoal of fish. The fish react to the bubbles and the piercing humpback call by grouping closer together for protection. And then the whale takes its reward. The birds are after any tidbit they can grab, but the vast humpback mouth lets little get away. The open mouth can take in a huge amount of water, as much as 2,000 litres. And then it's all strained through the long plates of baleen hanging down from the roof of the mouth. A strong muscular tongue then squeezes out the water, leaving the fish trapped in the baleen. A humpback can consume as much as 4,000 kilos of fish in a single day. Humpback whales normally forage by themselves, spreading out over the feeding grounds. But when there's a very large shoal of fish, then as many as 20 whales may feed together. The whales can cooperate to catch their prey. Humpbacks are amazing hunters, able to overwhelm their prey with ingenious behavior and an enormous mouth. But humpbacks themselves were once the target of hunting. They have a curious nature and often approach vessels. For hundreds of years, they swam straight into the harpoons of whalers. Whaling decimated their population worldwide, killing 250,000 humpbacks in the last century. When they were finally protected, only 5,000 remained. Until now, the ban has held firm. But every year, hundreds of minke whales are still being killed under the guise of science. And those same whalers now want to resume the hunt for humpback whales. But for now, they're only pursued by scientists, whose tiny darts are safe and don't cause injuries. Only a little sting. This is true science, where all that's taken is a tiny tissue sample. There's no need to kill the whale to understand it. From this, scientists can gain a wealth of information about a living whale. We're only beginning to learn the secrets of these amazing animals. For now, Petty Point is safe from the killing ships, and so is his mother. Today, the humpback is still endangered. It will be a long time before their population ever returns to what it once was. During this winter season, Vögul will spend 6 months without feeding. But she will still produce 50,000 litres of milk for her offspring. Her hungry calf will drain away a quarter of her entire body weight, about 12,000 kilos. No wonder he's so playful. Until he leaves this place, Petty Point needs to gain strength. He must practice how to move his giant body. Vögul will need to conserve her energy not just to feed Petty Point, but to power her swim south when this winter season ends. With mother's protection, a baby humpback has a carefree life. But it's not without its dangers. Petty Point already bears the scars of a shark attack, a cookie-cutter shark which bit off round pieces of his blubber. Staying close to Mom is the secret of survival. The biggest danger for a young whale is when it becomes separated from its mother. There are predators in every ocean who target baby humpbacks, especially when they're on their own. There are killer whales in colder waters, and in the tropics, tiger sharks. Most attacks occur during the baby whale's first migration, when it's small. Predators can see which ones are vulnerable, like this baby with a diseased tail. It's losing the tissue of its flukes, making swimming more difficult. There's no way it could outswim a tiger shark. This killer is one of the largest of all sharks, and fierce. It's found a baby humpback on its own. The whale is badly wounded. It tries to ward off the attack. The shark wastes no time in moving in for the kill. The blood attracts more sharks. It's over quickly. But the loss is immense. It will take 2 years for the whale's mother to conceive and give birth to another baby. Petty Point will need to stay alert to the dangers of the sea. One mistake could cost him his life. Fortunately, Vergoul is always close by to keep him safe. Vergoul's role is more than just mother and protector. She will also act as teacher to her young calf. Most importantly, she will lead him on his first great migration to the feeding grounds in Antarctica. This is the same journey that her mother took her on, and her mother before her. Humpbacks have been swimming our seas for 7 million years. Female humpbacks are the most important members of their population. They raise the young, they protect them, and they show them the migration route that each whale will repeat for the next 40 or 50 years. They are the wise ones who retain the cultural memory of their population. Without their mothers to guide them, baby humpbacks would be lost at sea. It's early September. The end of the Antarctic winter season is now only 2 months away, and then all humpbacks will leave their warm tropical waters and travel to colder, richer ones where they can finally feed. When they depart, Vergoul will show Petty Point her migration route. In his first journey, he will need to remember the entire route. The journeys of humpback whales are far, some as long as 10,000 miles to the poles, amongst the longest journeys of any mammal on Earth. They rarely rest. They keep moving, drawn on by a growing hunger. Somehow, they find a way to navigate the endless sea. Sometimes whales use their own sonar, making sounds which can travel many miles, bouncing back from underwater mountains. Whales can use a sea mountain as a navigational aid, aiming their sound signals towards it and swimming in that direction. Once reaching it, they then change course and head to a new feature. The whale's urgency to reach the feeding grounds is strong. They rarely stop. Even at night, they continue. Whales also use sound to communicate with one another. Their companions may be dozens of miles away, but they can still be in close contact. They perceive their world on a much larger scale than humans. Who needs the stars when it's possible to navigate with sound? The journey can be too much for some calves, but riding the slipstream of their mother is less work and makes the journey easier. When Petit Point completes his first voyage, he will arrive in the freezing seas of Antarctica. Here, there's plenty of food for a growing whale. And he will learn how to hunt for himself. His first few years will be a crucial learning period. Every year, humpbacks return to the same place their mothers first showed them. This is home. Because of this, most of the whales at a feeding site are related. They're an extended family who return every year from different wintering sites to feed. This might explain why they cooperate so well. There's no doubt they can learn from each other, especially when they're after fish. In 1980, researchers of New England noticed that one whale began using a different feeding technique. Before blowing a bubble net, the whale did something new. It slapped its tail on the water, which killed or stunned its prey. Then it blew a bubble net and proceeded to feed. This behavior, called lobtail feeding, had never been seen before. Soon other whales began lobtailing too. The practice spread throughout the population, especially among younger whales who picked it up in their crucial first few years. By 1989, half the whales were lobtail feeding. Today, it's a common behavior. Lobtail feeding is evidence of culture, an exchange of information from one whale to another. There's a good reason why the whales began lobtailing. Before 1980, they fed on fast-swimming herring, but with the collapse of the herring stocks from overfishing by man, they turned to slower, less agile sand lances. They needed a new technique to catch these prey, so they invented one. This is one hopeful reason why humpbacks may thrive in the future. Their culture helps them survive in a changing world. Human fisheries are doing more harm to humpbacks than depleting their food supply. The adult humpback's #1 cause of death is entanglement in fishing gear. Nets and ropes which take years to degrade. They wrap around the whale's mouth, flippers and tail and stop it from swimming and feeding. They also kill. 2/3 of right whales and humpbacks in the North Atlantic bear the scar marks of fishing gear entanglement. It's too late for this whale. Its mouth is entangled in rope. The rope has ripped apart the baleen, which is now sticking out from the whale's mouth. Now it can't feed. It's certain death. In a few places, highly specialized whale rescuers are risking their lives to save entangled whales. They first need to hook the netting that snared the whale.
Got it! Just let her go, let her go. Pull up on it. Snub it, so we got it in. Okay, good. Now let her go, let her go. Let her go. We'll see what happens.
Then they follow the whale until it slows down and cut the rope. The whale had rope embedded 6 inches deep into its tail.
Okay, one more. Wait a minute, it's flying, it's flying. We got it, look at that.
No wonder it's relieved. This is an ever-present danger that Petty Point will face. For now, he's safe in his sanctuary and free to play. Until he leaves on his great voyage, he will gain strength and learn how to move his huge body. Humpback whales have the largest flippers of any whale, 1/3 of their body length. They use them like rudders to turn and roll with incredible skill and precision, just what a hungry whale needs when it's chasing fish. But this isn't just play. It's practice for when Petty Point separates from his mother after just 1 year and heads off on his own. Play is preparation for more adult games. As he matures, Petty Point will memorize the song that he hears from other whales. One day, this mysterious and compelling song will reverberate from him. He will become the newest member of the great underwater choir and fill the ocean with his own voice. He will keep alive the ancient song of the humpback. The humpback song is a powerful form of communication. But exactly what the sounds mean is still anybody's guess. All the whales in each ocean sing the same song. However, over time, the song changes. New phrases are introduced, others are dropped. Within a few years, the song is completely different. And somehow, all the whales keep up with the changes. The whales in different oceans have different songs. The song that Petty Point hears in the South Pacific is wondrous. The song of other whales in the North Pacific is completely different. Whatever it may mean, the humpback song is a remarkable, evolving symphony of nature. For most of the past few months, Vogul has raised Petty Point in a safe, remote corner away from all the other whales. But now, a visitor has appeared, a young adult male humpback. Petty Point has a rival for his mother's attention. Humpback whales also come to the tropics to mate. Females, like Vogul, don't normally conceive the same season they give birth, but that still doesn't stop the young male showing interest. He wouldn't stand a chance competing against larger males for a receptive female, so he's turned his attention to Vogul, who has no other suitors. Wherever they go, the escort will follow. Male humpbacks will compete fiercely to mate. As many as 20 males will follow one female, jostling for pole position beside her. A receptive female attracts the very largest suitors. The closest escort has the best chance of mating. But he must defend his position.
Miles from the South Pole. It's even too far south for most penguins. Out of 17 penguin species, only 2 live this close to the pole. The big ones are emperors. The small one is an Adelie. The penguins only look awkward on the surface. They are completely at home. 5 hours after takeoff, the plane lands on the frozen sea near McMurdo Station, a United States research base. For the passengers, those 5 hours have transformed their world.
Thanks for flying with us.
It's like getting out on another planet. I'm always impressed with the purity and the vastness of the ice. The sea we want to explore is beneath our feet, locked away under 6 feet of ice. But first we have to learn to deal with the ice.
This is Snowcraft 1. This is the basic snow survival course that all field parties have to attend in order to get permitted to head out into the field.
The height of the winter, as the sea ice is growing, the continent roughly doubles in size. So in a normal year, you'll pretty much see a lot of little cracks in the sea ice out here. What we're going to do here is we're just going to break out our drills and just find out how thick the ice is here. Whenever you're going to drill, and drilling is considering the potential hazards out here, that's the way you find out whether the ice you're on is safe or not.
It's known as Snowcraft 1, also collectively known as Happy Camper School, and sometimes known as Survival School. And I guess a lot of that depends on the weather and the disposition of the folks involved. But today it is definitely Happy Camper School.
Well, this is a couch. See? This is a party couch. I think I'll turn this into like a little drink rest or a coffee table.
Cool. Okay, high winds coming in from the south. You're going to have to hold on to everything you've got. You can't just take the contents of your tent and dump it onto the ground, because otherwise it's just going to blow away. And for God's sakes, you don't take the thing and try and blow into it. You're going to wind up in medical.
This is a classic Antarctic day out here. It's virtually dead calm, lots of sunshine, but the potential for it to change in the next 2 hours or less is pretty dramatic and pretty amazing. Intimidating, I think, is probably the best word for it. The weather is just plain intimidating, the way it can humiliate you and make you feel small.
It's mid-October, springtime at McMurdo Station.
If you have any trouble at all, you just call MacOps and tell them you have a dive accident. They'll page everyone.
Hundreds of scientists and technicians are here, but most of them, like Norb's team, are inside, getting ready for the season's work.
What transportation options will be best? If you're diving locally here, the best transportation is going to be your Sprite.
Rob Robbins is McMurdo's diving coordinator. He'll often dive with the team.
Have a helicopter launch from here, go up there and pick you up. So
people call this place MacTown. It's a frontier outpost, a modern version of an old mining town. When the weather breaks, everyone scrambles to get out in the field. They're all chasing the most elusive kind of gold, knowledge. This year, the National Science Foundation will support 127 major research projects. The projects cover everything from microscopic worms in the ground, to the movement of ice sheets, to the hole in the ozone, to the crystals made in the big volcano called Erebus, the dominant landmark here. For Norb, Christian, and Dale, gathering equipment and scheduling trips into the field seems to occupy all the daylight hours. And it's daylight all the time.
So what we may want to do is fly up here, see if you like anything. We can land anywhere around down there, take the door off, and do it again. And just pull it off. We'll put a rock on the door and leave it.
All this work is dwarfed by Antarctica. It's the only place on Earth that still has huge areas which have never seen the track of a human being.
I'm so ready to dive, I'll dig with a toothpick if I have to. But we still have to plan things out with Rob.
There's some of the Sprite accessible dive sites around here. There's a lot of good diving. At Cape Armitage, it's fairly shallow. There's a shoal there. There's a lot of anchor ice. It's really pretty spectacular. Little Razorback, which is maybe an hour away or so. A lot of big pressure ridges there, so that's a good spot.
Are we going to be able to cross them? Do you think the travel's going to be bad?
The travel, I think, is going to be pretty good. There are some cracks. You're going to want to be careful, but it's fairly safe out there.
I'd really like to film an iceberg underwater. I mean, that's kind of this thing, you know.
There's an iceberg grounded up at Cape Barn, which could be spectacular, but it looks like it's quite a ways offshore. We'll have to see what it pans out to be.
This ice is 6 feet thick. It's like cutting a porthole in a concrete wall. But we can't just go jump in the hole.
Come back in, blade it, and we'll bring the hut in, place the hut, we'll put snow around it, and you're down.
That was great.
Okay? Thanks.
Weddell seals are at home on the ice. They live far from open water and use cracks and holes to get in and out of the water and to breathe. In October and November, the seals haul themselves out on the ice to give birth and raise pups.
After 10 days of preparation, we're ready. I admit it, I'm a wimpy diver. I hate boats, I get seasick. This is great. No waves. You just drive out on a frozen ocean in this big red thing, which is called a Sprite.
A Sprite is fun for about the first 5 minutes. It's like driving a tank. But a tank's fast. This thing maxes out at about 10 miles an hour. After 5 minutes, it's sheer unadulterated hell.
After a rough hour's ride over the frozen ocean, the team arrives at the dive hut that they place next to a rock called Little Razorback Island. Dale will be first into the water.
3 layers of underwear and a dry suit. It still doesn't really keep you warm. But for me, it's worth it. There's no diving like this anywhere else in the world. The only thing exposed to the water is your lips. At first, they burn, but then they get completely numb, and it's okay.
The water temperature here is 28 degrees, so cold it can freeze blood. If something goes wrong, there are only 2 places to get out, this hole and a nearby safety hole. But diving is what they came all this way to do.
The crystals on the bottom are called anchor ice. In shallow places like this, ice forms on almost anything the water touches, so it grows in kind of an ice garden. Sometimes it picks up stones or even living creatures like this sea urchin, and then carries them up to the ceiling.
To me, these noises sound like alien radio signals in science fiction movies. They're actually the calls of Weddell seals. The seals will go anywhere they can find a hole for air.
I've dived in a lot of places that are famous for clear water. The Great Barrier Reef, the Bahamas, Tahiti, Hawaii. This is far clearer. At this time of year, you can see almost a quarter of a mile.
These strange things are called brine channels. Up on the surface, salt is concentrated in the frozen sea ice and makes brine, which is so salty that it stays liquid even when the surface ice cools it to extremely low temperatures. When this cold brine flows downward, it freezes the less salty seawater around it, making these tubes. We're diving in shallow water because most of the action is on the ocean floor. These sea stars have just finished off an urchin and are attacking each other. Some of these animals are far bigger than similar species elsewhere. This sea spider is a giant compared to its cousins that live in warmer water. Isolation helps these animals evolve differently, and their slow metabolism in the cold lets them grow older and bigger.
Clear water is great for us, but hard on the life here. There's been no sunlight for 4 months, so nothing has been growing in the water. Everything is hungry. This anemone may look pretty, but it's a ravenous predator. The current has carried this jelly too close to the bottom. The anemone snagged it. Sometimes they can eat an entire jelly.
After about 40 minutes, you start to really get cold. It's time to get back to that warm hut. Under the ice, you have no clue what the weather's been doing, but this is Antarctica. It's sure to be different. When you come out, you get oriented by looking for Mount Erebus. There it is, smoking away in the distance.
Underwater, the body fights off cold by burning calories like a furnace.
Cool, baby.
Everyone is physically exhausted.
Ceiling, very, very cool.
But the whole blue room sensation is from dropping down out of the second tunnel and then looking up into the blue room. That's
pretty vicious.
That's the sensation right there.
But other than being tired, they're exhilarated.
I think it must be because you're coming out of that dark part, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Because otherwise, it'd just be like any book.
It's kind of spooky. Long way from the hole. It's kind of fun.
The next day, they're right back out on the ice. The team comes upon a hump in the snow that could be a lot more dangerous than it looks. This is exactly what Norb and Dale were warned about in survival school.
So what's the rule of thumb? It has to be, we need 30 inches of ice, but if we get a crack,
it's got to be less than a third the track width. So I think if we just get a shovel here and we can clear some of this away and see how wide it is.
This snowdrift marks a crack in the ice. You can't tell from the surface if the crack is too wide for the Sprite to cross.
It's always weird to think that right underneath this solid-looking surface, there's ocean 1,000 feet deep. I love diving, but I sure don't want to fall in.
The penguins know how to get around better than the team. In fact, research has shown that their funny waddle is actually very efficient. There are all sorts of mysteries under the ice. One of them is how the Weddell seals live. In this field camp near McMurdo, biologists are studying the seals. They have drilled a hole in the ice so far from the other holes that a seal released here has to come back. It's held captive by its need to breathe. Under a special research permit, this male was captured and he'll work with the scientists for a couple of weeks, then be returned to the place he was caught. They have glued instruments on his back and a camera on his head to explore a world of life and hunting under the ice that would otherwise be hidden forever. An observation chamber has been built under the ice near the hole. One of the science team is there to watch the seal's behavior. This seal, and others that have worn the equipment, have led to breakthroughs in the study of Weddells. The video the seal takes is a first. Here, with the camera pointed forward, is something divers and scientists had never seen before. The seal blows bubbles at the sea ice ceiling and flushes out its prey. The ice is too thin for vehicles near Turtle Rock, which is the best place to see seals underwater. The team must hike with tanks, cameras, weight belts, and all. Underwater, a male seal hears them approach. He checks them out. But he has other things on his mind. There is a female in the neighborhood. There's no warm dive hut here. But that's all right. It's a balmy day, about 15 degrees. Since the big drill can't get here, the team has to dive through a seal hole. The water's constantly refreezing, but keeping the hole open is one thing the divers can do more easily than the seals. Seals have to use their teeth.
Going, want to press it?
Making a lot of noise though.
I got this other one anyway.
Mike, let's try
The
this
details get you every time. I've had trouble with this hose before, so I want to be real sure it's working.
There we go.
Anything wrong with that one?
It's frozen.
All right.
As Norb and Christian get in the water, a mother seal is teaching her baby to swim. But she has other concerns too. Females, once they've given birth, are often ready to breed, and this female knows that the male is around.
Seals can dive as deep as 2,000 feet. They have been known to stay underwater for over an hour. But they don't get decompression sickness, the bends, which is a major hazard for divers. To prevent the bends, divers must be careful when ascending so nitrogen doesn't fizz out of their blood like bubbles in a soft drink.
As we watch, a male shows up to chase the female. But she's not interested. The males sometimes fight each other at breathing holes, so we try to use holes that aren't occupied. As Christian heads for the hole to get out, something unexpected happens.
Oh!
Oh my God!
Please don't bite me. Please don't bite me. Please don't bite me.
Oh, you're gonna get bit. He thinks it's a huge male, about to take a chunk out of a part of him that Christian doesn't want to lose.
Like, whoa, somebody's using me.
I saw that baby seal go.
Oh. Like, don't bite me, don't bite me.
That mom didn't care at all, man.
Go. Is that the baby that came out there?
Yeah.
I was sitting there like, oh, big dude over here, scraping out a hole.
This big one is a leopard seal. He's near the top of the food chain. A wolf of the Antarctic. a penguin eater. But out on the surface, he's about as agile as a slug, so the penguin is safe. For now. Couloir Cliffs, the next dive site, is too far away from McMurdo Station for the team to use a drilling rig. But Christian, Rob, and Dale use just about every portable tool known to man to get through the ice.
Sorry. We have holes.
This is the type of sea star that I have never seen before, using its long arms to pick plankton out of the water as the current moves past. This crinoid, a relative of sea stars, is sort of fly casting for plankton.
On the surface, Rob keeps the hole clear and has no idea that beneath him, Dale is having one of the most memorable dives of his life. He is witnessing the effects created when snow from these cliffs melts and sinks beneath the cracks in the rocks.
Under the surface, the fresh water seeping back out from the rocks is frozen by the colder seawater. It looks like a frozen waterfall. The sunshine has been feeding energy to algae, which is turning green and golden. Soon the algae will bloom in the water and end our season by ruining the visibility. But for now, it's just plain beautiful.
On a slope below Mount Erebus, a glacier flows to the sea from the thick ice in the interior. In some ages of the Earth's history, Antarctica's ice has flowed completely away. Today, scientists are studying this ice, trying to learn whether it is growing or shrinking and why. This simple and precarious balance between what is frozen and what is not affects everyone on Earth. Norb's team has put a hut right where the glacier meets both rock and the sea. The glacier face goes hundreds of feet down into the water. Norb and Christian will dive right next to it.
This is a spooky place. When you swim close to this, you can't really tell where the water ends and the ice begins. It gives you kind of an ominous feeling. But fish live right next to it, no problem. They make their own antifreeze in their pale blood. The ice isn't ominous to them, it's home.
Every year, Antarctica sheds thousands of icebergs like flakes of its skin. Everyone knows that icebergs hide most of their mass underwater, which is why the team wants to shoot near one. But that, like everything else here, is going to be harder than they thought. Christian and Rob have been out for 2 days looking for bergs to explore. Their report is not good.
Hey. Gotta go Cape Roberts.
Well, Cape Roberts is pretty nice, but we weren't able to find any diveable icebergs.
Oh, you can't?
No, actually, we tried quite a bit. We spent a couple days chainsawing holes and trying things out, but doesn't look too good.
No, really? So you're saying, what, out of all those bergs over there, you don't think any one of them's diveable?
I don't think any of them are diveable without drilling or blasting a hole. Most of the icebergs are packed tight by the sea ice. No cracks, no openings, no nothing. And a lot of snow drifted up around each of them. We did find one berg that had kind of calved off and collapsed. And as it collapsed, it broke the surrounding sea ice around it, which looked really good. It looked like there was some thin spots we can get in, and there was a seal or two around. God, we spent like 5 hours chainsawing this thing open enough so that we could get in. Turns out, not only was it really dark and murky and kind of freaky, but when it looked as if when the iceberg calved and it broke all the sea ice around it, it pushed all that broken sea ice underneath the surrounding sea ice. So as soon as you open up a hole, it could be plugged up by this broken piece of ice that's underneath the underneath.
It's dangerous.
So I kind of jumped in and went down about 8 or 10 feet, and all the ice started kind of shifting around around me, and so I came back up. Didn't like it.
But the team is determined to dive an iceberg and find this berg frozen in the sea ice. The berg appears to be in very deep water, not the most interesting diving. But at least there's a seal hole to dive through, and what they discover is a complete surprise.
This is very cool. There's rock right under the berg. It's not in deep water after all. There's an underwater pinnacle here, and the berg crashed into it like a ship hitting a reef. But a ship would be here for centuries. It's hard to imagine, but soon this huge structure will just disappear.
Bergs play a huge role in the Antarctic ecosystem. They crash into the bottom often, clearing big swaths on the seafloor for new life to colonize. Some scientists think this constant churning of the bottom is one of the reasons that life down here is so diverse. I've seen these dimples on most bergs. They may be caused by the way the ice is eroded by currents swirling against it. Young fish take refuge in the dimples. I guess when this berg melts, they'll just go find another one. It's not as if there's a shortage.
This is a desmodina, the same kind of jelly that was nailed by the anemone. It's riding higher in the current though, fishing with 40-foot long tentacles.
It has been another great dive, but this dive costs the team big time.
I'm calling from McMurdo Station in Antarctica. I'm a physician. I'm a diver, and I have somebody here who's a professional diver who truly seems like he has decompression sickness. Diving down here.
Dale is in trouble. He may have the bends.
Diving heavily for a week.
It's a sharp pain in my back, and I don't want to mess with it. If there's a bubble in there, you never know. You can be paralyzed for the rest of your life. Sometimes you just don't recover, and you can't dive ever again.
Kind of a tough one. Now, we do have a chamber here, and the chamber is standing by.
Might as well get in.
Here we go.
See ya.
Imagine being told that you can no longer do something that has been a large part of your life since you were a child.
30 seconds for a descent to 60 feet.
Dale has been placed in a hyperbaric chamber, an enclosure in which air pressure is first gradually increased and then gradually decreased. This shrinks the nitrogen bubbles in Dale's tissues and allows the extra nitrogen gas to safely diffuse out of his body.
I feel selfish for being depressed about losing what some may consider to be a hazardous job. Most of all, I'll miss being underwater, under the ice.
Dale will help out on the surface as the team continues diving and filming. They fly to the strangest dive site on the schedule. It's near a region called the Dry Valleys, where wind keeps the rock scoured clear of ice. At the foot of these valleys is sea ice that is unusually thick and stable. Near the ice, the National Science Foundation has built a well-equipped field camp. Here, oceanographers are studying life that is remarkably similar to what lives thousands of feet down on the ocean floor, the largest and least known ecosystem on Earth. But the depth here is only 90 feet. It's the ice, so thick it never breaks up, that makes this shallow world as dark and cold as the bed of the deep sea.
These unusual soft corals have evolved to sweep the sand for food, a behavior that has never been seen anywhere else. Among scallops, these brittle stars fight each other like stick warriors. The red ones eat the white ones, if they can catch them.
It's January. On the shore, water is cut loose by temperatures that flirt with a thaw. But summer ages quickly. The midnight sun sinks toward the first sunset of autumn, and there are new visitors to McMurdo Sound. The U.S. Coast Guard icebreaker, Polar Star, arrives to cut a passage for a freighter to bring in supplies to Mactown. In the strips of open water behind the icebreaker, minke whales appear. They're feeding on plankton that has bloomed in the water under the ice in the constant daylight. Minkies, among the most common whales in the world, are still hunted in Antarctic waters. The sudden appearance of abundant food is good for them, but bad for diving. The great visibility is gone, so Norb's time here is almost over. All around the coast of Antarctica, ice cracks and disintegrates. The expanse of sea ice has shrunk from its maximum of 7 million square miles to its minimum of only about 1 million. There are other visitors out there, but they're more elusive. For days, the team searches outside McMurdo, looking for the orcas that often haunt the ice edge. But day after day, the patches of water are empty. Then, in one breath, everything changes.
The ice of the whole bay seems to be breaking up in front of our eyes, opening into long strips of water that are called leads. The orcas take advantage of these leads as soon as they open to get as far into the ice as they can. They're hunting the giant Antarctic cod, a fish that can reach over 100 pounds and uses the ice edge as shelter.
Everyone thinks that orcas eat penguins. These Adelie penguins seem to think so too. But scientists haven't actually seen a penguin eaten here, so they don't know for sure that it happens. Still, when whales are around, penguins play it safe.
Dude, this is ridiculous. There's like 20 whales right there.
Orcas seem to watch us by doing what we call spy hopping, checking out the surface. They may also spy hop to look for new leads or to navigate back to open water.
The orcas seem to be at the heart of the huge ebb and flow of energy in the Antarctic Sea, where the sun burns away the ice each year and the long night builds it back.
On our last day, Rob is filming me with his digital camera. And suddenly, something happens that reminds me that for all our study, we still know very little about life under the ice. The whale checks me out, then sends some kind of message, but I have no idea what it means.
Months ago, Norb, Christian, and Dale said they were going to the ice. There is no casual term for leaving it. They have looked in the face of glaciers and at the roots of icebergs. They have glimpsed the life that has turned this hostile place into a home. But it's tough being on the ice, and at the end of all this work and cold, the team is happy to be heading home. Antarctica is the one continent where humans may forever be strangers. But we have looked past the big white shield and have seen the beauty and mystery that the ice tries to hide.
Under Antarctic Ice is available on VHS for $19.95 and DVD for $24.95 plus shipping. To order, call 1-800-336-1917 or write to the address on your screen.
Oh my goodness, look who it is. Hi, honey.
Here's good footage.
Yeah.
It hurts. It hurts. Going.